Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Judy Rabinor, and I am so happy to welcome you to this program. We have so many people here all over the United States. There's someone from Argentina, somebody from Holland. Anyway, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have counseled hundreds of parents over the past 3 decades. Parents coping with the challenges of raising children after divorce. And I'm also the author of a book, and the name of the book is Befriending Your Ex After Divorce, Making Life Better for You, Your Kids, and Yes, Your Ex. And I know some of you have already taken a look at my book because you've sent in questions, and of course I'm going to try to get to them at the end. So you've probably signed up for this webinar because you're concerned, you're worried, you may even feel hopeless. And you know that divorce impacts your children and you really want what's best for them. And I want to tell you that one of my biggest resources is that I, too, am a divorced parent. Yes, I shared many of your concerns and worries when I got divorced. And it is my life experience as well as my professional experience that I am going to bring to this webinar. So when I got divorced, I remembered feeling, oh my God, I don't want my divorce to screw up my kids. I mean, I probably heard from my mother, people at my kids' school, all sorts of professionals, that children from divorce have more problems than children from intact families. That they are more likely to be school dropouts, they're more likely to have problems with drugs and alcohol, they're more likely to have problems forming stable relationships when they get older. But I want to start off by addressing that concern and assuring you that my most important message is that it is not divorce that damages kids. It's when divorce is mishandled that children suffer. And I want to repeat this because that's at the core of this workshop. Before we go any further, though, please close any screens you have open, Facebook, your email, because for you to get what I know you can get out of this webinar, you're going to have to pay close attention. So don't allow yourself to get distracted. We live in such a crazy world where everyone is always distracted. The next thing I've learned is that for you to really get what you can get out of this, what's important is that you get something to write on, a notebook, a piece of paper, and a pen or pencil, because I'm going to ask you to do a couple of really simple exercises. Okay? And we're going to start right now. So let's start by me asking you, are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling hopeless? Do you need support? Are you trying to develop a better co-parenting relationship with your ex, and sometimes you even feel sabotaged by people who love you? They say, ugh, what are you trying to get along with her for? Or what are you trying to get along with him for? Have you seen divorced families celebrate together? Maybe celebrate a birthday, maybe show up at a school event and you wish I could be like them. Well, I have good news for you. Divorce is not a lifelong sentence for misery. And it is possible for you to improve your relationship with your ex. And I'm here to tell you 4 things that are going to help you enormously. And I'm ticking them off right now. We're going to go through them in this webinar. I want to give you some strategies, tips, and techniques how to protect your children from the damaging consequences that divorce can but does not have to bring. I want to help you learn how to keep your emotions in check and how to control your reactions, because let me tell you something. Divorce is traumatic. Divorce, even though it is so common, I think 40 to 50% of children grow up in divorced families, it is still traumatic when someone gets divorced. And our emotions run wild. It feels like sometimes we're in the midst of a hurricane, and being able to keep your emotions in check and learning how to control your reactions, your behaviors, this is crucial. And what I hope you're going to leave this with is the beginning of learning how to create a new vision of your co-parenting relationship. Now, this webinar is filled with lots of do's and don'ts. And here is one of the big don'ts. Take a look at this picture. What do we have here? 2 parents angry at each other and a poor kid with a broken heart. Part of his heart part of his hands holding mom and he's holding dad. And look at the expression on his face. What makes children crazy, what makes children unhappy, what I mean when I say is mishandling divorce, is when children have to witness and be involved in constant battles between parents. When children feel torn apart, torn between mom and dad. When children feel that their needs are forgotten. When they feel that their world has fallen apart, has collapsed. That's what really traumatizes and damages kids. And I know this because I, too, took the journey from divorce to recovery, and that is why I'm here today. So let me tell you a little about my personal story. After 15 years of marriage, my daughter was 8 and my son was 12. My seemingly happy marriage unraveled. It fell apart. Neither my ex-husband or I wanted to get divorced. His parents, in fact, were divorced, and he really wanted to avoid divorce, but staying together became impossible. We, like some of you out there, tried everything. We went to individual therapy. We went to marital counseling. We took romantic vacations, which weren't so romantic. We spent time apart. We talked to friends, relatives, professionals, to one another. Nothing helped, and ultimately we divorced. At the time I divorced, I could never have imagined I would develop a collaborative, cooperative, co-parenting relationship with him. A relationship that I would now today call supportive and comforting and friendly. But over time, that is exactly what happened. But it didn't happen right away, and that's one of my regrets. I'm sorry it didn't happen sooner. I have to say that from the start, I set my vision on the fact that my children were my most important priority, and that's why you're here today, because your kids are your most important priority. I kept the phrase, children need two parents. What is in the best interest of the children was going to be my guiding North Star. And one of the things I quickly came to understand was that even though we lived in two separate houses, we could still be a family. And so that's really one of my messages. Even though your marriage has fallen apart, you can still be a family. And I want you to take a look at this picture. To me, these parents are creating an umbrella, shielding their children from the rain and the thunderstorms and the hurricanes and the tornadoes that divorce can and often unleashes. And you can't really see the faces of the parents, but you can see that they're creating a safe haven for their children. And that's what's most important. Children need a safe haven. Children do better. This is what all the research says. Children do better when they have two involved parents who can speak to one another cooperatively, who can compromise, who can communicate, when they feel that their needs are not forgotten, when they feel that their needs come first. You know, this is a story I never will remember, I'll never forget. When my ex and I told our kids we were getting divorced, I remember my daughter was sitting on my lap and my son was sitting on my husband's lap. And after we told them, I think they were kind of stunned. They were young. Of course, they knew other kids whose parents had divorced. I think every child lives in dread of their parents getting divorced whenever they hear a harsh argument or anything that seems a little out of sorts. But the first words out of my daughter's mouth were, "Mom, am I still having my birthday party?" That's what children want to know, that their needs are not forgotten. And that's what we as parents need to really keep in the front of our mind. They didn't get divorced, we did. We did. We are the parents who got divorced. And our goal is to maintain as calm and harmonious and collaborative a relationship with one another as possible. So, that's a tall order, right? When people get divorced, they generally feel we can't get along. We don't have much in common. We can't talk to one another. How do you get around that? Well, mindfulness is a big word these days, and let me tell you what mindfulness means to me. What mindfulness means to me is the ability to be present in the to be present in the now, to be present in this very moment. That when you are with your kids and your ex, it really is, if you can put the past aside, it doesn't mean you have to forget it. It doesn't mean you have to forgive it. All you need to do is think about co-parenting. All you need to think about is, what is going to help my kids the most? Children do best when parents collaborate, when parents cooperate. So mindfulness, in simple language really, is simply learning to slow down, calm down, pause, breathe, count to 1 to 5, and think about how you want to react, how you want to respond. Knowing that you are angry or you are sad actually can help you formulate how you want to behave. And because you are angry or sad doesn't mean that you have to act upon it. So take out your notebooks now. Jot down something that your ex does that really annoys you. One of my coaching clients talks about how her ex always sends back dirty laundry. Another of my coaching clients talks about how when the kids are at his ex-wife's house, the kids come back all hyped up, zipped up, zoomed up because they eat so much sugar. He happens to have a really healthy diet, and she thinks that popcorn and potato chips are just fine. So jot down something that your ex does that bugs you. And now, imagine what it would be like to imagine this happening, and you just breathe into it and count backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And imagine saying to yourself, I am going to be calm when my ex yells, when he brings back dirty laundry, when she allows the kids to eat too much sugar, when my ex is consistently, chronically, and always late. Here's another example of how mindfulness can help you. Imagine you have lost it with your ex. You are bubbling over. Just imagine you're sitting at home waiting for your ex to bring back the kids, and you are really late. And he is late, and you are really resentful, angry, annoyed. So can you imagine saying to yourself, it's not realistic for me to expect myself to always be calm, but I can work on it. I can work on slowing down. I can work on taking the high road, because I want my kids to have the best chance of being happy, content, safe, and I don't want them to be in the middle of this. So when those kids walk in the house, I don't need to let them know how disgruntled I really am, how annoyed I really am. I can let it go. That's what practicing mindfulness means. And you don't have to do something formal like you see here. This is one way. You need to simply know that calming down, counting backwards from 5, taking 3 deep breaths will help you take the high road. So, divorce brings up so many intense emotions. And after all, learning to self-soothe is something that's really hard for all of us. And so think about what helps you calm down. Listening to music, doing yoga, maybe exercising, maybe lying in the sun, relaxing. So think about ways you can practice calming the intense emotions that are bound to come up. And when your ex pushes your button, you almost need to have a little mantra. I can practice mindfulness. I can breathe. So the second thing we're going to talk about is managing your emotions. And I know you know this because you're here on this webinar, that divorce is one of the most emotionally challenging situations you will ever go through. And even when divorce is mutual, just going through legal and financial negotiations creates enormous stress. And The two of the many emotions that are likely to be stirred up are anger and grief. Why is this? Because divorce is a crisis, and this is the Chinese character for crisis. It's composed of two images, danger and opportunity. There are risks and dangers, and you want to have an umbrella to protect yourself and protect your children from the dangers of emotional explosions. You know, this is what the literature says, that high conflict parents create children who have a lot of problems. How can you find an umbrella for your anger? Because divorce is a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm for being angry. You know, when people are married, they try to keep their anger out of their relationship with their children. But for many people getting divorced, there seems to be like a license to let your kids know, your dad, that guy, he drinks too much, he's always late, why is he always out of work? I was at a party overhearing someone talk about her ex-husband who had lost his job. If that man had still been married to her, she would have said, my husband was laid off. Now that they're divorced, he's a loser. He's always losing jobs. I heard a guy at the same party talking about his ex-wife, calling her an alcoholic. If they had still been married, he would have said, you know, my wife, Lucy, she works so damn hard, and I'm so happy that on Friday night she's able to have an extra glass of wine. Yeah, she needs to really sleep it off in the morning, so shh, kids, be quiet. So how can you create a mantra that's going to help you manage your anger? How are you going to be able to say something that's going to help you get through your angry feelings? How can you remember to love your children more than you hate your ex? So how are you going to create a mantra that reminds you, I can step on the brakes. I don't have to be so angry. Step on the brakes is a mantra. Maybe there's a mantra you want to write down. A mantra can be any word that reminds you to be calm. It can be the word calm. One family that I worked with, the year they were divorcing, they had 3 kids who were graduating from 3 different schools, junior high, high school, and college. The mom in this family told me she put this picture on her refrigerator door, graduation day. She wanted to remind herself this day had to be a happy day for her kids. She wanted them to be able to have a memory of a happy day, and she was going to do her best to manage her anger. Now, anger isn't the only emotion that people have to deal with when they're married, when they're divorced. And handling grief is really the second big one up there. You'd be surprised how often I give a workshop and I say to people, you know, learning how to manage your grief is really important. And people will raise their hand, they'll say, I'm not grieving, I'm happy. I'm so happy to be rid of that idiot. It took me 4 years to get divorced. But you know what? Divorce is a loss. It is a loss of a dream. It is the loss of an intact family. We live in a culture where an intact family is valued. And while divorce does not carry the stigma it once did, many people feel like getting divorced is a failure and staying married is a success. And so they've lost something. And I want to show you this slide, which I love so much. It's from right after 9/11. The city was crying. Even people who didn't lose someone close to them in their family felt so vulnerable. So we need to allow ourselves, after we get divorced, to mourn, to weep, to recognize that even if your divorce is a happy thing, even if you have initiated, even if your life is going to turn out just fine, what you need to know is that it's okay and it's normal to be sad. I included this slide because I love the desert. And to me, this is a slide about nature, about the process of death and rebirth. That a tree can almost die, but one little branch has a sliver on it, a sliver of green. And some of you may feel like your divorce has knocked your socks off. And it's important to remember that even after sadness, there is rebirth. That mourning is an important part of being reborn. So managing your emotions, managing your reactions, and managing your mouth. That's the next big tip. Dr. John Gottman is one of the most well-known, well-respected family counselors and family therapists, and he says that there are 4 behaviors that sabotage communication. And most people who get divorced say, we couldn't talk to each other. So therefore, it is likely that you're going to have, if you had communication problems when you were married, you're going to have them now. And you may have them even more now. The first thing that's important to avoid is criticism. What is criticism? Criticism is when you have trouble sticking to what's wrong in the present moment, and you find a need to attack somebody's overall character. Criticism is when your ex forgets to bring back your kid's boots. You say to your ex, again, you've forgotten? Why are you always forgetting everything? Do you know how miserable it is for me? When you have to throw in the whole kitchen sink instead of saying you forgot the boots, please bring them back. Criticism. So think about this. Do you have your notebook there? See if any of these phrases resonate with you. I get so mad that I can't hold back any of my thoughts and the whole kitchen sink dumps out. I let everything hang out when I get mad at my ex, and I feel regretful. I let everything hang out at my ex, and I feel ashamed. I let everything hang out and I feel joyful. And many people do feel joyful. They feel it's great to get everything off their chest, but it's not great when the consequences are not good. And having your kids be in the middle of all kinds of parent bashing is one of the things that harms kids, that makes kids suffer. Remember that little kid torn between his mom and dad in the beginning of this webinar. So if you recognize yourself in any of these, you might want to create a mantra. The mantra can be as simple as specific complaints. The second thing that Gottman noticed was contempt. And what is contempt? It is open disrespect. It is being openly disrespectful to your ex, in front of your ex or not in front of your ex. So ask yourself, do I ever, deliberately or unconsciously, sneer, roll my eyes, speak sarcastically, ridicule? And if so, these are behaviors you want to eliminate. And I want to say something about this. This learning to communicate with your ex for the sake of the children, this is a skill set that is going to benefit you in every relationship in your life, at work, with the rest of your family, your parents, your siblings, and with any new relationship that you may have or perhaps even have started. Learning how to manage the way we speak to others, even and especially when we're angry or when we're very upset. It's so important. It's a retraining that divorce offers this opportunity. You may want to have a mantra. No sarcasm, no ridicule, no rolling my eyes. The third thing that Gottman talked about was defensiveness. What is defensiveness? Defensiveness is when Ben says to Joanne, Joanne, how come you forgot to tell me that Ronnie had a music lesson last weekend? And Ronnie says, well, how come you forgot to tell me that there was a swimming meet last Tuesday night? Defensiveness is simply defending yourself by attacking the other person, and it requires such a mindful approach to not bring up things in the past and just say, I'm sorry. You're right, I forgot to tell you. Divorce, as I pointed out before, it's such a perfect opportunity, a perfect storm for stirring the pot with anger and resentment. And the fourth thing that I want to talk about is stonewalling. What is stonewalling? It is simply ignoring or walking out on your ex. Giving them the silent treatment is a perfect example. So let me just say something. If you feel you're going to explode, there's not a thing wrong with saying, I think I'm going to get off the phone. I'm feeling very angry and I don't want to be angry. That's far different than just slamming down the phone or just slamming out of the house. Somebody told me recently their ex slammed out and one of the pictures fell off the wall in their foyer. That's what you want to avoid. So you may want to make a mantra that says, let me call you back. Let me call you back. Let me think about you and call you back. So this is the slide that I love because many of you probably have seen the film, The Horse Whisperer. It was written by Robert Redford, and he starred in it also. And it was a very moving movie about a young girl and her horse who were both deeply traumatized and wounded in a terrible accident. And the mom found a horse whisperer, and a horse whisperer was a person who was so talented at taming wild horses, and he tamed and trained them by being gentle, by being non-coercive, by understanding who this girl or horse was. And the truth of the matter is, if you are divorced, you know more about your ex than you may think. You know what pushes your ex's buttons. And you have a responsibility, if you want your children to feel safe and like they are really under an umbrella, you have a responsibility to work hard and not unnecessarily pushing his buttons. So the fourth tip, creating a new vision of co-parenting and making a plan. You know, we've talked about managing your emotions, managing your communication. I guess the crucial question is, what is one small step you can take in creating a more amicable co-parenting relationship? So think about the things we've already gone over, things you need to do to protect your children. Well, let me give you an example. Think about that slide that I showed you in the beginning with the parents, their arms being an umbrella for the kids. After one of my workshops, one of the participants sent me an email and she said, I told my husband to come over for Christmas dinner. And he did. Her ex-husband, sorry. Another person brought up in an email, you know, me and my ex, the dog that we had after we got divorced, that dog was mine. But in these 6 months, we've been sharing the dog, and that's been teaching us a lot about collaborating. So I guess what's really important to know is you don't have to get along about everything. You only have to get along about your children. So what is one small step that you can take? You can plan a birthday party for one of your kids with your ex. Someone in my practice knew that her ex was having a family reunion and he didn't have enough beds in his house. She had a futon. She asked him if he'd like to borrow her futon. He asked her, would you like to stop over and see my sister? She really misses you. And a new co-parenting relationship was born. Your journey continues. Yes, as I've mentioned throughout this webinar, as I've tried to stress, divorce is not an event. It is a process. I originally was going to title this webinar, Sane Parenting After Divorce, and I realized that that really didn't capture what I wanted to convey, because after divorce is forever. You know, I write for the Huffington Post. I write a divorce blog, and their logo is marriages end, but divorce lasts forever. Divorce lasts forever, and your journey is going to continue. And there are many roadblocks, pitfalls, glitches. And when times are tough, we all really need someone who's been there, done that, to reach out and show us the way. Someone who knows what we're going through, someone who can answer our questions as they have done for hundreds of other people, and that's me. I've been there. I've explained a little of my story. I have felt the frustration and the pain of seeing my own children suffer from my divorce. And I have worked hard and struggled to create a new life for my family. I've counseled hundreds of divorced parents, and I've helped them create a new vision for their families and I've helped them bring that vision to life. And that's the hard part, creating a vision and bringing it to life, taking one small step. So in order to help more people, I've developed a small group coaching program, and I'd like to invite you to join. The program consists of 2 sessions. Yeah, the program is a little like this book that we all read as kids, The Little Engine That Could. And this was about a little engine that carried a long, complicated train up a mountain. I think I can. And he got to the top. And that's what you need, a little engine behind you. And in the first session, we're going to talk a lot about impossible situations and impossible exes. I think I've made it clear that I was able to work out a pretty stable, solid co-parenting relationship with my ex shortly after we got divorced. But it's not always that easy, and that's what I really have learned in all my years of working with people, because there really are a lot of difficult exes. There are a lot of difficult people in this world, and there are a lot of difficult situations. We're going to be addressing some of them. For example, suppose your ex has cheated on you with your best friend, and now she and her new husband, your best friend, have bought a house around the corner from you, and you have to deal with this every day. That's what I'd call an insane situation. Suppose your ex is really heavily involved in drinking or drugs, and the children are being exposed to this. You have a lot on your hands. This is a lot more than just negotiating about what kind of food gets eaten in the 2 different homes that the children reside in. So we're going to talk about impossible exes, and anybody who's going to join my coaching program, I hope that you will send any emails in that you'd like and ask me to address specifics, because I'm really open to that. Also, we're going to be looking at your emotional baggage, and I'm going to create some exercises. I've created these exercises, and I'm going to ask you to take a good look inside so that you are in better shape to deal not only with your ex, but whatever relationship comes along next for you. And taking the high road. This is one of the most important principles in my book. How important it is to put the past aside and keep in the front of your mind the idea, I want to do what's best for my kids. I want to do what's best for my kids. And we're going to go over a lot of new strategies, techniques, situations. I'm going to give you some new tools, some new ideas, how to maintain your calm in the midst of a hurricane. The second session. The second session is, again, as we've just touched on, the notion of poor communication. Most people who get divorced say, we couldn't communicate. It's really too bad, but we couldn't communicate. So we're going to start looking at communication styles. I'm going to help you assess your and your ex's styles, and I'm going to help you figure out how you can create safe communication so the 2 of you are not always in a huff. And I'm going to do that. I have a process which I think has really helped so many people. It's called empathic listening. It's not mine. It's part of really the whole field of counseling and psychotherapy. If you've ever been in therapy, you may know about empathic listening. But we're going to do some exercises because it's really hard to walk in your ex's shoes. Most people hope that when they get divorced, it's over. They're done. That is the bad news. As I think I've said before, marriages end, divorce lasts a lifetime. That is the logo on the Huffington Post where I have a blog. If you're interested in reading any of my old blogs, just put in my name and go to Huffington Post. But having empathy for your ex is part of having a decent relationship, just like it's important to have empathy for anybody else in your life. So you're probably wondering, how much is this going to cost? If we were to work one-on-one, this would cost you thousands of dollars, anywhere between $1,800 and $2,800. But what I have created is a special program. It's a special program. I've taken the most important ideas and tools and distilled them into these 2 sessions. You are going to get the meat of my philosophy. And because I'm going to do it with a small group instead of one-on-one, and because there are 2 sessions, I'm able to make an offer that I think you cannot refuse. It will not be $2,800 or $1,800 or $500, just $197. And I don't want cost to stand in your way. I want a small group of action takers who are ready to change their lives. And I'm so confident that this program can help you that am willing to take all the risk. Just attend the first session. And by the way, if you sign up now, anytime today, there is a bonus. You will receive 2 additional free call-in sessions. But in terms of me taking the risk, here's the deal. Just attend the first session. If you are not completely blown away by the content, if you are not convinced this program can help change your life, just let me know before the second session and I'll send you a 100% refund with my thanks for giving the session a try. So now, you have a choice. You can continue as you are. You can find your own way through the landmine of divorce, going up and down the mountains, falling into glitches, hoping that your kids are going to survive and thrive, seeing your children suffer, and not being sure what to do about it. Or you can let me help you. You can let me show you how I did it. You can let me answer your specific questions, and I can show you how to apply what I have learned to your situation. I can lead you through the forest and out the other side. So the coaching program that I have described to you, which I think is going to give you a lot of new information and is organized in a way it can address some of your specific needs. If this appeals to you, I want you to go now to www.localexpertcoach.com/Dr. Rabinor. I want you to take a look. The URL is right up on the screen, and these slides are going to be available to you later. So if you don't get it right now, you'll have a copy on the slides that are available, and click the Join Now button. And this is going to take you to PayPal, where you can pay $197 using either your PayPal account or a credit card. And the 2 dates, the first one is this Monday coming up. That's Monday the 23rd of March, and the following Monday, Monday the 30th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're not Eastern Time, you're going to have to do your own conversion. I'm sorry we didn't think to put that information up on the slide. The classes on Monday, the 23rd and the 30th at 6:30 p.m. The call-in sessions are Tuesday the 24th and the 31st. I am going to be available at 6:30 for 45 minutes each time, and I am going to take individual questions, so you really will get individualized attention and help. Okay? So, questions. Here's a question from one of our listeners. This is Jenny from Topeka. My ex brought the kids home and he had alcohol on his breath. When I asked the kids, where were you before? The children told me they were at his friend Bob's house, and Bob is a known alcoholic. What should I do? This is a problem we're going to really talk about a lot, but you have a moral and ethical responsibility to protect your children. I'm sure you know that. You don't want your children driving in a car with somebody who has been drinking, and even if that person has been your ex. I'd have to really talk to Jenny from Topeka longer than we have now. But what I would advise her to do is, A, sit down with her ex, tell him that this is a giant problem and that this can't be, and for her to let him know that she is going to have to take legal means, yes. Now, I'm not one who really goes for, I'll call my lawyer if you don't do this or that, but this is a situation where it is really important to go to the authorities to protect your children. Oh, wait a second, another question. Here, this is from Bob in Manchester, New Hampshire. My ex says it's okay for my 16-year-old kid to drive, my 15-year-old kid to drive, even though the driving age is 16. She's letting him drive. What do we think of that? What I think of that is, it depends. You know, the answer to most questions is it depends. Sometimes parents will let kids drive in their driveway. They'll take them over to a school parking lot. I think that it's important for Bob to Manchester to think, what would I do if we were still married? To have your kid driving on a street with other cars and pedestrians? No, definitely not. This is something you should really speak to your ex-wife about and tell her about the dangers, and speak to your son about it, because your son who's 15 is not a little boy. He's getting to be a grown-up. This could lead to tremendous injury, death, financial risk. It's really important that you set a limit here. And the first step of my philosophy is you always try to communicate with your ex. You always try to sit down and think, what in the world is going on in her head that she would allow our kid to be driving without a license? And as I said, if it's in the driveway, that's one thing. If it's in the school parking lot, like an empty parking lot, not a school parking lot. I happen to have a home on Long Island, and I live near beach clubs that are deserted in the summer, in the winter. So if it's a deserted area and someone is allowing their kid, I think you should think, what would I do if we were married? How would I handle this? Because this is the unfortunate part, that the skills that we did not learn when we were married are the same skills we need to deal with our divorced spouse. And we only have time for one more question. This is from Jane out on Long Island. My ex doesn't supervise the children's homework. I feel like taking him to court. Jane, this is not a court issue. I don't think that you'd get very far in court taking your ex into court because he doesn't supervise the children's homework. He could have an okay rationale. There are a lot of people who don't supervise homework and feel like children should learn how to supervise their own homework, and anyway, they have teachers. So this is not a court issue, but it is an issue for you to sit down and talk to your ex and think about your children. I don't know how many children you have. 1, 2, 3. Think about each child, what they really need. Another thing, you could ask your children, your ex, you could discuss with your ex and your children, I'd like to be available. So when they're at your home and they have homework and you're not available, they're free to call me up. So, you know, the bottom line is life is not fair and divorce is hard. And sometimes as a good enough parent, you're going to have to do more than you think you should. You're going to have to really listen hard and figure out who your ex is, because even though you're no longer married, he or she is still in your life and still playing an important role in your life, raising your most precious possession, your children. So these slides are all going to be available, and you can just send in an email. You can click on the link that's going to follow in order to register. You can email any questions, and I am hoping that I will see many of you when we have the first coaching session, and that's less than a week away, on Monday the 23rd at 6:30. We're at a time. I hope you've gotten some of what you need, and I can promise you you'll get more of what you need when we work together on the 23rd and the 30th. Thanks very much.